Hi, this is Myra with Boutique Paint. You're joining me today on my family room floor. When we were at the Las Vegas trade show, gift show, a couple weeks ago, we noticed a theme going on there, and that is canvases, not on frames, with different types of scenes on them, like a French villa or whatever. And I thought, the wall that the IOD sisters did at their last place would be fun to do, but not everybody wants to commit to putting transfers or stamps maybe on their wall. So I thought this might be a fun way to do a very large piece and not have to commit to it being on a wall. So I picked up this canvas at one of the local craft stores, and it came in a roll. I think you could probably get it at the fabric store, and it is just canvas that you would stretch onto a frame. I'm not doing it onto a frame, obviously, otherwise I would have just bought a frame. But I will probably put sticks at the top and the bottom to hang it. So I don't know if you can see, hopefully you can see this, but there's some puckering going on around this because this has started to dry. I did not wash this, and so of course it's doing a little bit of shrinking as I do this. And basically what I'm doing is I'm starting out with some white in the center, and then I'm going to add, there's a little bit of blue in this brush, which is fine because I'm going to be adding some blues. I watered this down a little bit. It was really thick because it had been sitting for quite a while, but also it makes it just easier to get on the canvas. So whatever paint, this is DIY's White Swan. And I'm just putting it in the center for now. And you can get it on any old way works for you. Whether it's brushing, it is a little bit more difficult to do because it moves than painting like a piece of furniture. But it's still working. And you could do this on like a large piece of plywood. That's... Afterwards, I was thinking, oh, that would be kind of cool to, a big, like a 4x4 piece of plywood. You could do it that way too. And then put the hangers on the back to hang it. But this is what we saw in Vegas, and I thought, well, that just looks like a lot of fun. So let's give this a try. So what I'm going to basically do is I'm going to do a green towards the bottom here once I get this white on, and then I'm going to do kind of blues around the edges, dark blues. I wanted it to be, originally I was thinking maybe just the whole thing, a white or a cream, but then I started thinking I wanted it to be a little bit more moody, so that's why I'm going to do some greens and blues in this. And then we will add some of the stamps, molds, or not molds. That's the other thing. If you do it on a piece of plywood, then you could add some molds, but I don't think that would work so well on a canvas. You can always do it and prove me wrong. I would love that. Stamps. That's what I was trying to say. And do some stamps, some transfers. You could probably even do, some paint inlays on this. Oops. You could throw the paint on it and see what happens there. Do abstract art. So this is going to be quite a long process. So I'm not going to try to fill up a whole bunch of time by talking you can pretty much see what I'm doing. Hopefully my head's not in your view the entire way here. So I will just show you what I'm doing, but I'll do it through fast speed so that you don't get bored to tears. I wanted a darker green than I had, so I used DIY's Aviary and I mixed in a little bit of Old School until I got the color that I wanted. I also was spraying water into the paint to thin it up a little bit, and I just kept mixing until I got the color just the way I wanted it. I was also spraying the canvas as I went through this process, just kind of adding water as I go. It helped to kind of make the paint go onto the canvas a little easier. I have to say, now that I am done with this project, it was honestly one of the funnest DIY IOD projects that I've done. It was very relaxing to do. It was just very creative, and I just really so enjoyed working on this project. When we get to the point where the entire piece is painted, then I will start blending in to the white. So it may look a little strange right now, going, this is blotchy and ugly, but it does turn out way cool once you start blending the colors. I am mixing Hey Sailor and mixed it with the Old School again, just to help darken it up. I didn't want to use black to darken it up. I thought the Old School, having a little bit more gray in it, would work better. So that's why I chose that color. And once again, I'm just spraying and going. It does take some time, but like I said, it's just kind of a fun project to do. So this is where some of the fun begins, because you're starting to blend the colors. And just like you would do on a furniture piece, I just kept adding water and moving the brush every which direction. Um, at the beginning, I was basically pulling the blue and the greens into the center where the white is. Um, and I did want to keep that white lighter color. That's why I started it with the white, is I wanted to keep that center kind of like a focal point. And then when I started putting the stamps on, it kind of would move towards the center. So it's just a lot of blending, mixing, spraying, adding more. Just have fun with it. Just play with it and see what you come up with. I do want to mention that I do have a big piece of plastic underneath the canvas. I probably should have led with that, because the paints and the water will bleed through. So if you're doing this on your dining room table, on your floor, you obviously don't want to be painting those things. I got a little bit lighter blue by mixing Hey Sailor and Old School again, and I just added a little bit of white to this mixture. Then I took a wet paper towel and I am just kind of blotting it on and then spraying it with water. I apologize for the bad angle here. I am adding some stamps through this area. Um, and I'm using the new Iron Orchid Designs La Campagne, I think is how it's said. Excuse my horrible French. I don't know why they do this to us. Anyway, yeah, so you just start adding the elements that you want here. Now here is a stamp I can pronounce. I am using the Bird, Branches, and Blossoms stamp, but you could also use the Branches and Vines stamp for this. And I'm just working from the edge of the canvas towards the center and stamping my branches out. And I'm just kind of adding little bits and pieces and just making bigger branches with it. When I was working on this part, I did cut up some thin mount pieces, and that way I had each branch on a different thin mount. It made it a lot faster to stamp this out. Here I'm using the bird from the new Birds and Bees IOD stamp, and it has a branch on it, so I just kind of added it to the edge of the branch that was existing. And I had to do this twice because I didn't ink it up quite as dark as I wanted it to. I am using black ink for this project where I normally don't. I like to use the stone gray, but I really needed it to show up a little bit better since I was using dark colors. And again, here's another bird from the Birds and Bees. You've probably noticed this piece of transfer that has been hanging over the video. And I thought that I might want to use that as having that come down from the top. But after time, I realized I really didn't want to use it. So it's just sitting there. Anyway, I have moved on to stamping the flowers from the Birds, Branches, and Blossoms stamp. I'm using the smaller flower on this, and I'm just kind of adding them to the ends of the branches and any place that looks like it would work. And then I'm also adding, there's two size leaves with this stamp set, and so I'm using the small and the large throughout this. You could stamp these elements with paint instead of ink. I stamped them so I kind of would know placement of these elements, and then I'm going to hand paint over the top, and because I wanted a hand painted look as opposed to stamping with the paint. Here I'm using the Petticoat pink, and I'm just taking a small paintbrush and filling in every place that I stamped the little blossoms. Like I said, I wanted this to kind of look like a hand painted piece. But you could, if you wanted to, go ahead and use the paint to stamp with. So I'm just going along, and I pick up my paintbrushes from any of the, like Joann Fabrics has sets, and they're not too expensive, especially if you can get the 50% off. Next, I'm using Kissing Booth, and I'm taking a toothpick and just dipping it into the paint and then just putting little dots in the center of the flowers. With the flat brush, I am now filling in the leaves with Aviary and just kind of going along, once again, just filling in any place that I had stamped where you can see the ink. And then I used a toothpick for some of the smaller parts of branches that I wanted green. This enabled me to kind of get in there and get little tiny detail in that area. Here's a better close-up of the painting, so you can kind of see it a little bit better of what I'm doing, but just covering up the ink. So next I took my leaf stamp and re-inked it and stamped over the top of the leaves where I have painted them. It just kind of gives it detail again. And then I'm adding some butterflies, a dragonfly. These are all kind of going towards the center of the canvas. At the last minute, I added some water at the bottom and just blended it in to the green. Here I am staining a couple boards that I will staple to the canvas to help hang it. Placing the canvas onto the board, I just start at the center and move out and staple it to the board. Then I added a second board to the top, kind of sandwiching the two pieces of canvas together. And here is a little bit of a close-up of what it looked like once it was done. If you have any questions about any of the products I used in this video, you can go to our website at www.boutiquepaint.com, and thank you for joining me. Bye.